Spain, 1997. A phone call breaks the silence at the American embassy in Madrid. On the other end, a frightened American teenager speaking with a peculiar accent, claiming to have escaped from a child trafficking ring. But this isn't just any missing child case. This is the story of perhaps the most audacious impersonation in criminal history. 3 years earlier, in San Antonio, Texas, 13-year-old Nicholas Barclay left home after a basketball game. He was never seen again. The disappearance of this blonde-haired, blue-eyed teen devastated his family, who spent years searching for answers, until now. The young man on the phone claims to be Nicholas. There's just one problem. He looks nothing like the missing boy. Dark hair, brown eyes, and most tellingly, a French accent he can't quite shake. His real name is Frédéric Bourdin, and at age 23, he's about to convince a grieving family he's their missing 16-year-old son. Facing imprisonment in Spain, Bourdin searched through missing persons cases and found Nicholas Barclay. The boy's family had spent 3 years wondering if their son was alive. Bourdin saw an opportunity. He decided to steal the boy's identity. The deception unfolds with surgical precision. Bourdin constructs an elaborate tale of kidnapping by an international child prostitution ring, torture, abuse, chemical treatments to change his eye color, each lie building upon the last, creating a fortress of deception. But the truly astonishing part? Nicholas's sister, Carrie Gibson, flies to Spain to collect him. Despite the glaring physical differences, despite the accent, despite every rational signal screaming that this cannot be her brother, she brings him home. For nearly 5 months, Bourdin lives as Nicholas Barclay. He adapts to life in Texas, enrolls in school, and becomes part of a family still wrestling with grief. The community embraces him. The media celebrates his return. But beneath this miraculous homecoming lies a darker truth. And what this family didn't see, or perhaps chose not to see, would soon unravel in ways no one could have predicted. A local private investigator's suspicions, a TV crew's camera lens, and a pair of ears that didn't quite match would begin to crack the perfect facade of Nicholas Barclay's miraculous return. Who was this man who could convince a grieving family to see only what they wanted to see? The answer begins in Nanterre, France, 1974. Raised by his grandparents in Nantes, Frédéric Bourdin never knew his father, a French-Algerian immigrant who vanished before his birth. His mother, barely equipped for parenthood herself, remained a distant figure. This early abandonment planted the seeds of what would become a lifelong pattern. By his own account, Bourdin began his career of deception at a remarkably young age. Children's homes across Europe became his training ground. Each new identity a chance to rewrite his story, to become someone, anyone else. With each successful deception, his confidence grew, his methods refined. His lies became more elaborate. Nicholas was everything Bourdin was not. A 13-year-old American boy with blonde hair and blue eyes, living a stable life in San Antonio, Texas. Before his disappearance, Nicholas was known for his energy and spirit. Though he sometimes struggled with behavioral issues at school, he played basketball. He had dreams. He had a family who loved him desperately. The day Nicholas vanished, after a pickup basketball game, just blocks from his home, he left behind a sister who would never stop searching, a mother who would never stop hoping, and a community that would never stop wondering. 3 years of birthdays missed. 3 years of empty chairs at family dinners. 3 years of wondering, is he still alive? For Bourdin, this pain represented an opportunity. At 23, facing imprisonment in Spain, he had already lived multiple lives under countless assumed identities. But the Barclay impersonation would be different. This wasn't just another temporary escape. This was a chance to become part of a family, to finally belong. The psychology behind such an audacious deception reveals layers of complexity. As Bourdin himself would later explain, when you fight monsters so long, you become one. Throughout his life, he claims to have assumed hundreds of false identities across Europe, each new persona serving as both escape and assault. An escape from his own reality, and an assault on the truth itself. In Nicholas's case, Bourdin didn't just steal an identity, he weaponized hope. He understood that a grieving family might be willing to overlook the impossible. The different coloured eyes, a French accent, even the wrong ears. He banks on the power of desperate belief. His calculation proved correct. When Nicholas's sister, Carrie, flew to Spain, she saw what she wanted to see. Her brother, transformed by trauma, but alive. When his mother embraced him, she felt what she needed to feel. Her son, returned against all odds. The family's desperate hope became Bourdin's most powerful accomplice. But as Bourdin settled into a life as Nicholas Barclay, speaking broken English with a French accent, something unexpected began to happen. The master imposter started to believe his own performance. And in that dangerous space between truth and deception, between reality and desire, the seeds of his eventual undoing were already taking root. Charlie Parker, a local private investigator working with a TV crew, noticed something the grieving family couldn't see. The ears of the man claiming to be Nicholas Barclay didn't match photos of the missing boy. This observation triggered an FBI investigation. What followed was devastating. Blood samples were drawn, tests were conducted. The FBI's DNA results weren't just conclusive, they were impossible to rationalize away. The young man living in the Barclay home shared no genetic markers with Nicholas's mother. The family who had welcomed home their lost son now faced an unbearable truth. They had been living with an imposter. Their real son was still missing, and the man they had embraced as Nicholas was the 23-year-old Frenchman named Frédéric Bourdin. In September 1998, Bourdin faced a San Antonio federal court. The man who had manipulated a family's deepest hopes pleaded guilty to passport fraud and perjury. The judge's response was unequivocal: 6 years in prison, more than double what prosecutors recommended. After his release and deportation to France in 2003, Bourdin's pattern continued. His story would later become the subject of The Imposter, a critically acclaimed 2012 documentary that stunned audiences worldwide. Through dramatic reenactments and raw interviews with both Bourdin and the Barclay family, the film exposed the incredible depths of his deception and the power of a family's desperate hope. But what of the real Nicholas? His case remains open, his fate unknown. The questions Bourdin's deception temporarily masked still haunt San Antonio. Where is Nicholas Barclay? What happened that day after the basketball game? The legacy of this case extends beyond its immediate participants. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about grief, hope, and the stories we choose to believe. For law enforcement, it highlights the critical balance between empathy and skepticism. For families of missing children, it underscores the cruel power of hope to both heal and blind. The media attention brought by Bourdin's deception keeps Nicholas's case alive in public memory. But it also serves as a haunting reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. As Charlie Parker noted in the documentary, sometimes the answers are right in front of us. We just have to be willing to see them. Remember, every crime has a story. Every story has a lesson.